Realty. That's my colleague and my business partner, Johnson Chang. Many of you should know him. He's very famous in the Chinese community. And also from some movies. He also acts. It's Chinese Hollywood, right? Yeah. So for us as a company, just to know who we are, we work with developers only. We don't do resale, right? So we don't compete with you and your buyers. We're pretty much very few companies like us exist, but we service developers. Every year, we try to do a market outlook because we have a lot of access to a lot of data from what we sell, from information we gather from our relationship from brokers, from various consulting companies. So hopefully we can give you some information that you might already know, we can reinforce, or give you some things you don't know that'll help with your business portfolio. We're a B2B company. We work business to business with you. Our relationship is very important that you prosper and support us in our projects, and we support you back. So for that reason, I'll take maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and Johnson can jump in if he wants to add anything. He usually has a lot of good things to also layer in these presentations from his experience, and hopefully help us give you guys a leg up, give you an opportunity to perform better this year and have you market information. Only thing I ask is do not take pictures. Okay, I'll tell you why. It's not professional. I will give you these slides when I'm done. In PDF, you can take it, put your name on it, business card, your name, home life landmark, everything, and give it to your clients if you want. A smart thing to do might be translate, because it's in English, translate it to simplified Chinese or traditional. I was hoping you fill that one in for me. Traditional or simplified Chinese, right? So whatever language is suitable for your culture. And then you share with your clients, maybe take 3 good slides. Every week you give them 2-3 slides. And that helps you, become a market expert. So I'll begin. So the way I want to begin is kind of go through, main issues we saw in 2018 that we pick out and I want to share with you. So let's talk about 2018 so we can recap it and get a better understanding of the foundation of the market and move on to this year and see what are the challenges and how can we help you improve your business, but as well what to expect perhaps. And some information statistics that you need to understand if you're in this business. Again, we do a lot of pre-construction business. That's our focus, not resale, okay? Resale, I leave it to you guys. So the main thing that we saw in 2018 that really hampered, that really affected the business was the mortgage business, the lending business, the financing business. The government referred to it as the stress test. Everybody familiar with the stress test? Everybody know what the stress test was, right? All they've done, I'll just recap, is that they've now, whether you're buying variable or fixed mortgage, you have to go based on the posted rate when you're underwriting the risk, right? So if you're getting a mortgage and your mortgage is, let's say, 3%, that is not the rate they use to calculate your debts. You understand what I mean? They use a posted, the commercialized rate of maybe 5%, 5.5. I think RBC is using 5.4 right now as their posted rate. So inflates the rate and brings down and tightens your ability to borrow, right? Your ability to borrow diminishes a bit, right? So if you have a $100,000 income and you used to be able to borrow, let's say on $100,000, $500,000, now it's dropped by approximately 20% how much you can borrow, okay? But things are changing positively, and I'll share that with you guys at the end. I hope I don't forget. Also, it reduces home affordability. So the 3 key things that we see that the stress test causes are those 3 items. Diminishes borrowing power, which I just talked about. Reducing affordability, cannot afford as much because you can't borrow as much. And in Western society, everybody likes to borrow. If you go to any university study business, they teach you how to borrow, how to leverage. Put a little bit in, use bank money to borrow to get the maximum return. Okay? And what essentially it does, it raises rental demand. If not many people can afford to borrow and to buy, more people have to rent. Very straightforward concepts, right? So that was a big deal in the marketplace. From a mortgage side, I'm a licensed mortgage broker as well, not because I practice, not as much as I used to, but because I like to have my information up to date because I'm part of the association, IMBA and CAMP. So I get part of the association, I get access to certain information, I go part of seminars, and I have an input in that market as well, okay? So for that reason, I like to look at mortgage because borrowing is a very, very important element of our business. Your clients can't borrow, you can't sell. Okay? Home affordability. So we go a little bit deeper into the topic of affordability a bit. Okay? So the key elements to understand from this line graph is very straightforward. So we have the bottom line condos. We're just trying to show you from a time range from 2000 to 2018, how is the market moving along in terms of integrated Toronto housing affordability. As it goes higher, it's tougher to afford. Okay? But then we also look at non-condos. So we look at condos here for 2018. It looks like there's been a spike. But we look at the housing market, even in 2018, although it's dropped into the double digits, right? The single family home market's dropped. The townhome market dropped in price a bit. What we're seeing is still a large gap between affordability from condo to non-condo, which is houses, detached, semi-detached townhomes, stacked townhomes, so forth. They categorize as non-condos. Okay? Everybody understand the slide? It's extremely important for your buyers to understand that. At times you may want to show that. And we are going to see that in the future. I am confident the housing market will start to go back up again. Okay? It's natural because as the costs go up to develop certain types of housing, prices must go up. It's inevitable. And I'll give you some examples of some areas and certain things we go through as a company, Johnson and I, and we learn from these experiences. So there's a theoretical aspect of this to understand, academic, and there's also practical, what we see, what we do in our business every day when we deal with buyers and whatnot. So non-condos payment as a percentage of income is 72% of your income. Everybody with me? Yeah? Condos, 42%. There's so much room for growth for condominiums overall. Okay? Looking at the market. So we can look at the single detached housing market. We're looking year over year. 2017 to 2018, about 18% drop. Okay? Don't be worried. These are not necessarily negative. Okay? Depends how you look at it, and depends the type of client you have, what they're looking to, their investors, their buyers. People that live in a house, they have to live in a house. They buy in any market. That market will always sustain. It will always be there. So that base market, people with family and kids, if they need home, they will buy home. Doesn't matter which market you're in. So there's always consistency in that business, in that side of the market. But also, the total number of listings also dropped by 12%. So to keep it simple, 12% of homeowners said, I don't want to sell. Right? They dropped. They said, I'm going to keep my property. That's good because that means they can afford to keep property, right? Also, bringing down listing brings up demand. So the single family home will go back up and will rebound. It just takes some time for that to happen. The condominium market, 15%. Again, these are residential transactions, resale, right? Dropped 15% about from 2017 to 2018. I mean, is that negative? I'm just curious. What do you guys think? My dear, no pictures. I'm going to give you the PDF. Don't worry, I'll give you perfect copy. Okay? So 15% drop. Well, of course it's going to drop. On average, how many condos, how many properties, new homes does GTA sell? Anywhere from 15 to 25,000 is the range I've seen. And it's been quite up and down in the marketplace, depending on the year. We don't control when the city approves the zoning. We don't control when you can go into construction. We don't control how fast you sell, right? But market taking its course, we're seeing anywhere from 15 to 25,000 units per year. 2017 was very unique, was a record high in GTA's history. We did over 35,000 properties. So of course, when you compare 2017 to 2018, there'll be a drop. Everybody make sense? But if you don't understand the business, or if you don't do research, then they're going to say, oh, that's negative. There was a drop. No, because it was a record year. That year, a lot of builders got their approval for zoning, which we'll talk about. So they all launched. Buyers' demand is high. They bought. So we sold over 35,000 properties that year. Right? So I just want you to put things in context for you to understand. When they see numbers like, ooh, that's negative. No, that was a record high in the history of GTA. We've never sold that many properties before. Now, you look at the resale transaction, very organic, very natural. For the total listings for condominiums, still a drop. So it's in line with housing. Although condo market is hot, right? But in terms of number of people, in terms of number of listings, it dropped. Okay, not everybody wants to sell necessarily. They're keeping their asset. they see value in keeping, right? That's always positive. Now, looking at the totals and the average selling price, okay, what's really interesting about it is the housing market overall dropped 8%. In terms of pricing for housing dropped 8%. For condos went up 7.8% last year, year over year, 2017 to 2018. You see what I mean? You saw a drop in the volume of sales from 2017 to 2018 for condos, but the pricing and value is going up. And it will continue to go up. It's not up to you. It's not up to me. It's basic economics of supply and demand. The younger generation, the millennials, which is the next big group of demographic that's aging, they need housing. What we're seeing in our sales centers is families coming in, supporting their kids buying their first condo. As parents who've made all this money in single family home, they refinance, they borrow, or they cash out certain investments to buy real estate. Real estate will continue to be the right decision for many people. GTA, Toronto, Ontario, Canada is an immigrant country and will continue to be an immigrant country. And immigrants understand basic math better than most people, and we believe in real estate because we come from economies that is real estate driven. We understand the pride of ownership of a home. So those elements are very important, and these sort of statistics kind of confirm that. And I think that goes a long way for us, right? Now, looking at the greater Toronto area monthly rent, we look at all residential types, and we've seen an increase in that sort of spike in the rent overall. So we've seen an increase going up, which is positive for investments overall. And I think it'll continue to go up, but in a more natural and more balanced way. But what's really interesting about it is we don't take 1 or 2 years. We've taken an array of years and just showing a natural growth into the rent increase. By showing condominiums leases signed in GTA, in 2018 increased by almost 10%. So a lot of people renting. That is very positive for investors. If you buy in New York at the price they're selling, if you rent it, do you think it covers your cost? Anybody know New York? It doesn't. You're off 20 to 40% off depending where you buy in New York. Off. So you can buy, you rent, you still lose money in New York. But people still buy real estate. The largest hedge fund companies in New York City buy real estate. The biggest hedge fund companies in New York buy real estate. Transactions in New York for penthouses, you know who buys them? Institutions buy them. They buy it for 20 million, they hold it, they sell it for 30 million, 40 million. So that should give you an understanding because New York has evolved a little bit more than Toronto. But naturally, I think pensions and various investment firms, depending on the size, they invest either in the lending side, right? Indirect from mortgage, they lend into the real estate, or they buy into real estate. So irrespective of what investment you buy, mutual funds, there's a good portion, I assure you, minimum, anywhere from 20 to 50% of your portfolio is in real estate. The only difference is they're not buying direct with agents, they're buying through a mutual fund. Anybody have mutual funds? Please take a look at it. You know what I'm talking about, right? If you have $10,000 you buy in mutual funds, I'm telling you $4,000 of your money, $5,000 of your money is real estate. You just don't know that. Just ask them, what is every investment you make? They may have a pension fund in there, but that pension fund invests into real estate. We see it all the time. That's what a lot of people don't understand. They say, I'm not buying real estate, I'm going to buy mutual funds or stocks. Yeah, you're buying real estate. You just don't know. If you look at City of Toronto, a good statistics, nice one, is for the one bedrooms, there's also been an increase in rent. We're hitting almost $2,100 on a one bedroom. It is the solid investment to make to buy condominium market. We put our investment, our time into this business in the condo market because we see consistently, we see growth. The future of Toronto is condominiums, irrespective of what happens. They're not going to let you buy houses or build houses next to subway stations in the city. They won't. And the subway will continue to expand. With LRT coming on Eglinton, anywhere going east and west, going further north, going to Vaughan, they're building density around the subway station. Toronto is still very young. You can still buy land, you can buy real estate along subway areas. In 30, 40, 50 years, if the subway does not continue to grow, all the land will be condominiums along the subway stations. Just look at it. That's part of the city's growing plan, to put density close to subway station. Okay? But what we're seeing from the one bedroom rent is that the average rent is actually quite nice. $2,071, as we pointed out, and medium rent is $2,265. But what you need to take away from this is the rentability, the low risk in selling and buying condominiums. If you have a house in Richmond Hill, let's say $1 million, you have to turn it into a triplex to rent it out and try to get good rent from it. But if you buy a 1-bedroom, 1+1, 2 bedrooms, anywhere in the GTA as a condo, you will do just as good, if not better, in terms of rent. Just take a look at the rent numbers. I had a house in Richmond Hill. You can look it up, Yonge and Elgin Mills. It was 62 Elgin Mills I owned, 65 by 175. I bought it because the land was big. I turned it into a duplex, 2 units, yeah? I had so much difficulty trying to get tenants renting for more than 1 year, 2 years. And that's Yonge and Elgin Mills, a very strong intersection Richmond Hill. I realized my condo portfolio is still doing better. My 1 bedroom is renting by far more superior than my house is renting. Right? And I think people don't want to cut grass and shovel snow today, right? So that also goes a long way for condominiums. It's hands-off, easy rental, easy management, even for you guys. Okay? Now, moving on. This is an interesting item to look at, the rental vacancy rate. Now, what's really interesting about it, we are actually seeing we're seeing a decline in vacancy rate. Typically, when you run a pro forma or analysis of your managing properties, you always carry some sort of vacancy rate, yeah? Everybody know what I mean? 1 month vacant, 2 month vacant, 3 month, whatever, depending if you do commercial or residential. You always run a vacancy rate in your pro forma. What's really interesting is, let's say 1% is a vacancy rate in Toronto. Is that good or bad? Good. Yeah, no, it's not good. I disagree. Vacancy rate being that low, New York is supposed to be a fairly balanced market, sits anywhere between 4% to 7%. Any metropolitan has a good vacancy where it has a nice range to it. You are required to have vacancy. It happens. It's natural progression of your supply and demand. But what's really interesting, when it's this low, that means there's a fundamental problems in our economics of supply and demand. There's more demand than supply. We need more inventory. If you don't get inventory, price will keep going up. What I'm here to tell you is naturally, condominiums in this marketplace is the best solution for investment and for people to put their money into. And it's going to continue moving forward in my eyes. Okay? So that's a very low vacancy rate. Now, looking at supply fundamentals, I think this is quite interesting as well, because when you look at the GTA, the completed and unsold, we're seeing a drop. So I can look back maybe 15 years ago, when you used to sell pre-construction in Toronto for your office, they would say, Tony, we're the builder or we're Cornerstone. We would give Tony, let's say, 100 units to sell, but we give him 6 to 8 months to sell. 15 years ago. Today, when we give you units, we give you 24 hours to a few days to sell. That is completed or unsold units, right? I just want to touch on that for you guys to understand. The absorption. Because there's a demand for it, the absorption is high. That means whatever we sell, whatever inventory is unsold, it's all being taken up in the marketplace. It's completed. People buy it, rent it, live in it, assign it. Any of those three are happening. And it's happening very nicely, actually. So there's a big demand, and we've seen this continued drop in this sort of unsold units. There aren't too many unsold units, that's what I'm saying. Right? When we launch a building, it may take, back in the day, it may take 2 years to sell to 75, 80%. Now it takes a matter of months to get to that point. So I think that's a very good statistic to understand and to really digest. So again, we're seeing a decline. There's less inventory available, essentially. That's what I'm telling you guys. When we launch, it sells. But what's really cool about it is, yes, there was a spike at one point. That's not in our control. That's when every builder decides to launch at the same time. A lot of inventory. But naturally, all of it gets sold and gets taken up and gets completed. Okay? So we are seeing less and less inventory. But what's really cool about it, what you should really take away from this slide, is this component. This component is very important. So when I told you 15 years ago, when we used to launch a building, campaign for a building, it would sell, it would take months to reach 80%. Now, in a matter of month or 2 months, we reach 80% during our first IPO, releasing of the building. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So when we launch a building, up to 80% we have control over sales very quickly. By the time we go into construction, we're 95% sold. This is average, right? This is all average, all across GTA. Some builders may take longer, depending location and product, all that stuff, pricing. But overall number, it's very healthy to see numbers of this level. By the time the building is completed, occupying or is registered, you've seen that is 99% sold. There's no inventory to come to some buildings to get. Okay, so that's quite a nice a trend and progression, and again absorption of inventory. So that's why there's unsold. There's very little unsold inventory. There's less inventory. It gets eaten up very quick. Okay, so we're still in that good place in the market that is still healthy. There's no sign saying that you launch a building, you're not selling. Everything's selling, right? That's what I'm trying to show you statistic-wise. But also look at is the new condos completion trend. We sell the building together, yes. Then when it comes to completion, when the building is registering or occupying, what we're seeing that's really interesting is at one point from 2008 to 2014, there was an increase in the number of buildings completed, right, occupying or registering. Then we're seeing a decline now. So we're seeing that, if you sell a building today, does not necessarily mean it'll be completed in 4 years' timeline. There's many variables in doing development, right? Number of construction companies that do excavation, number of companies that do concrete pouring, and various electrical, plumbing. There's only so many companies in the GTA that can provide those services to the developer, number one. Number two, the cost goes up, so every builder is waiting to see when they should be tendering contracts for various services, right, to make sure they get a cheaper price. But overall, that's causing a slowdown in the number of condos that's completing, right? That means less inventory again, right? So moving on, development application is hi guys, come on and sit down. Development application is a big topic for us on our side right now that we talk about, and it's really causing a lot of problems. So I'm presenting you these slides and kind of taking you through statistics of various topics that are really important for our business. But what's really interesting is I'll bring this all back to one topic that's very interesting for you to understand. I'm showing these signs of healthy and to be concerned in some areas, but then we'll come back again and I'll talk about something that's really important and what we're doing to change all this. Right now, on average, we look at average, there's 19 months required for them to process applications. That is a long time. That means from the time you submit an application to the city, it takes 19 months for that application to be reviewed, processed, and approved. I've seen numbers. 19 months has been the shortest timeline I've seen for this in terms of statistics from various sources. But I've also seen 40 months. So I've seen some crazy numbers in the market that if you have land and you want to build, if you say I want to build tomorrow, you cannot. Because you still have to go through the application through the city. And the city has to go through rigorous planning, rigorous conditions that you have to meet before they approve you. Over a decade ago, over 10 years ago, we had maybe into the double digits the number of conditions in terms of requirements to develop, to submit applications. Now the builders have to do over 200 applications, 200 conditions they have to meet with the city to get approval. It's getting much more complex. That's good for us to some level as well, but also it's slowing down supply. I think you understand what I'm getting at now, yeah? Because it's getting tougher with city, taking longer to get application processed and approved, and for us to have getting more complicated for a city giving you 200 conditions to meet, it's slowing down the supply into the market. These are extremely important items to understand. Buyers don't know these. Not a lot of brokers know these, but we share this with you to understand what we're going through on our side, so you understand how to balance out your business portfolio and how to work with your buyers and be intelligent about it. So if you're submitting an application today, it'll take 19 months to have the city come back. One interesting example was, as of 2018, everybody knows what development charges are? Put up your hand if you know what it means. Okay. How many people here do resale? Put up your hand. How many people do pre-construction here? Put up your hand. Okay, in pre-construction, anytime you're selling or anytime you're buying a new home, you're required to pay what we call development charge. It's a tax you pay to the city to set up infrastructure. Make sense? Sidewalk, for single family homes, sidewalk, trees, various things like that. For condos, they do infrastructure in terms of sewage, schools, parks, policing, things like that. Infrastructure setup. Because imagine you're building a subdivision of 100 homes. How many people actually live in that subdivision will put pressure on the social amenities in the area, right? You're going to need more schools if you have more homes and more people coming, yeah? So that money goes to the city. As of 2018, now that we know what development charge is, as of 2018, what's really interesting is development charges are doubling. There's a deadline to submit your building permit, which is now November. Is one date now they have it on, which is November, to submit your building permit to determine and to confirm your development charge costs for the builder. I'll repeat that, okay? This is very important for you to know. Very important for you to know this. You have to understand this. For the builder to confirm their cost for development charges, they have November is the deadline for them now. Before it used to be 3 times a year. They broke up to 3 times a year. Now it's November. If you pass that deadline of November, your costs go up. One project we were consulting on, okay, developer submitted, I want you to see this. Developers submitted their application before November last year. The city didn't even look at it. The city says, yes, we got your application. We've been busy. We haven't looked at it. So the cost of our client's project went up by $8 million. It's a condo, standard condo. Just think about it. $8 million means what? You divide 8 million by the average size of the building, it's around $30 to $40 per square foot on an average building. I don't know if you're laughing about it or what, but bless you. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's getting complex and the city's taking longer to approve. Remember, I was talking about 19 months to approve, but also the cost for development charges is increasing every year, November. So if you don't meet the deadline for your building permit for November, you're paying millions of dollars more. So if you're a builder, you own land, if you don't know the business, it's getting complicated. It's going to be very difficult for you to do, if you don't have good consultants and you're not a good developer that doesn't understand the business, it'll be very difficult for you to build because your cost goes up and your margins get smaller. Yes? This sort of implication, this cost, has made some projects cancel, even with good developers, because they were not paying attention to the deadlines and timeline to make sure they meet those guidelines. Okay? So that is one of the recent consult. I wanted to share that with you guys, what we go through when we work with builders, for you guys to understand how important it is and how costs are going up always. Because the city wants some of the money. You know, mommy and daddy want some of the money. I call the CRA and the government mommy and daddy. They always want to take your money from you. So that's a difficult thing. Another item that I thought is interesting is, everybody know East Gwillimbury? East Gwillimbury, if you want to develop there, if you see there's several big developers there right now that they have sales centers, East Gwillimbury requires, it's called forward tax, I think. I'm not sure what the word is. But they're asking builders to do forward tax for development charges to pay out before they sell or they build, to collect money to start infrastructure before you market your building now.
It's called prepaid DCs.
Prepaid development charges. Now this, you guys understand what that is now, right? Prepaid development charges. Now the city asks the builder, so you have land and you want to sell. The city says you have to give me however many $1 million that they need to start setting up the infrastructure before you sell. That's high risk for any builder. So if you have money and you want to build, you have to have a lot of money to pay the city, millions of dollars for them to start infrastructure. You still have to pay your costs, financing the land, marketing, sales, and sell it. Make sure you sell and develop. You still have money enough money for that. So it's getting much more complicated. And I use East Gwillimbury as an area because I really think has a great future, right? But that city is asking for prepaid development charges. It's interesting. It'll happen. Vaughan is doing the same thing. So whatever builder goes into an area builds, some of them are paying prepaid development charges to get you guys inventory to sell. So you should be sharing some of these ideas and these complexities with your buyers to really get a good grasp of it. Looking at the demand. We did the supply, now we look at the demand. GTA population projection. GTA, I mean, Canada in itself is going to be a healthy country for many, many years to come. It's natural because we have this resource that keeps coming in. You know what that resource is? People. People just continue to come in. But what's really cool about Canada is we don't have the Donald Trump problem of, having a border, having Mexicans coming. What's interesting about this is that in Canada, because of the immigration policies, they're able to pick and choose who comes and who doesn't come. Not that it's discriminatory, but they have a balance in how they get immigrants. From different classes, from different countries to different provinces, they control that very well, right? So for that reason, Canada has a very nice projection of population increase up to 2021 by 550,000. I told you earlier on in my presentation, we do on average anywhere between 15,000 to 25,000 new homes in GTA. And I'm telling you now how many people are coming in. On average, I think we're somewhere around over 300,000. Oh, there you go. Over 300,000 people come to Canada. So when you look at immigration, global immigration, people coming to Canada, we go over 300,000. And that's the immigration mandate by the government. They hit the target. And in fact, they go above that if they can. They bring over 300,000 people in a year in Canada. So they come in. But what's really interesting about it is from the people that come in, 133,000 of permanent residences, that's the 2017 statistic, go to Ontario, our province. So almost half of the people go to Ontario. Just remember that. You are here. You could have gone to any other province. Right? Ontario. So I find that to be a very powerful thing. But that's just immigration. What's really interesting is the inter-provincial migration. So people coming from other provinces. Because when you immigrate, when you do immigrate to Canada, sometimes the government says, Ontario will be met our cap. You must go to Calgary. And then from Calgary, what you do is inter-provincial migration. You come from another province, you come to here. That's what's interesting. So we're still getting another 18,000 or so of people coming in from other provinces. To immigrate to Canada, you'll go anywhere. And then from there, you shift to Ontario. Why? Why Ontario? Somebody said Calgary's weather was better. Was it you? Who was it? Ontario has many good things. But the secret is what my friend here said. The secret to Ontario is growth, stability, politics, and jobs. 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 If your kids go to university, hopefully they're not lazy. They can come out, still make money. There's still jobs. And what we see is we try to find what jobs means what. Where are the jobs? Who are doing the jobs? And what we're seeing that's really interesting is, sorry guys, is looking at employment. We're seeing the jobs being in very specific industries. In all industries, we have very balanced portfolio of employment. But specifically what we're seeing is a big tech boom. But before going that, just looking at office vacancy, we're at 2.3% in downtown Toronto. That's very low vacancy for office. To lease out office 100,000 square foot takes years or months to get people into those spaces. It's not a retail space that you and I can set up an office in a matter of months. So we have a very healthy market for companies wanting to come here. When I finished university, some of my friends studied computer science, some studied computer engineering. From what I remember, they chose two places to go when they had that degree. Anybody know where? I'm sorry? Silicon Valley, San Francisco, or Waterloo. If they wanted to stay local, they went to Waterloo. If they wanted more money and they want American currency, they went to San Francisco. This is what's interesting. San Francisco for computer engineer level 2 pays $150,000 US. You with me? $150,000 US if you're in San Francisco for level 2 engineer. Computer engineer, to be more specific. In Ontario, in Toronto, in GTA in fact, for level 2 engineers, you pay $80,000 Canadian.
What a ripoff.
What a ripoff. But what's really important, I'm trying to make sure you understand what I'm trying to explain here. That is why you have low rate. because we're still pumping out good educated university or college students, right? The jobs are there because a lot of the companies, global companies are coming to Canada to get the education that our kids or your kids or people are having because there's demand, but also their cost for labor is low. Workforce is low compared to San Francisco. Hence why Amazon's coming here. Hence why Google is here. Hence why every company you know is coming here. It makes sense. People are sending their kids. Many great universities here, but just in the GTA, 3 of the best top universities we have. York University, UFT, Ryerson. Ryerson, UFT, right middle of the city. It's amazing that you have 2 powerful universities that are massive in center of the city of Toronto. It's kind of like computer language, plug and play. I don't know if you guys know plug and play. So you want employee, you have Ryerson, you have UFT, now you have York University because of the subway line. The students you can pick anybody you want. It's powerful. So offices are low vacancy rate mainly because of the fact that companies are coming here, new companies are being developed here, right? There's a prosperity, evolution of prosperity happening here. There's a trend happening in Toronto, in GTA right now. People are creating companies because they're seeing that labor costs are low, the academics, intellects are very high, and they're able to prosper in the city. So whether it's international companies coming in or local innovation, both is happening. And I think that's a very important thing for you guys to realize. And also knowing that the unemployment rate is, of course, very low. So again, the tech sector is a big one. We've been talking about anybody work on any of our buildings, we talk about the tech sector. We did a project last year we launched called Sugar Wharf. Anybody work on Sugar Wharf? Know Sugar Wharf? It is in a very powerful place in Toronto. It's forever, whether you like it or not, that building will sell, that project will do well. The only thing is you have to get your buyer in there and to get them a unit because they're sitting in a very important part of the city and they'll be part of the city skyline. Once that land is done, sold and built, you can never sell there again. You got to go resale. You got to pay premium. Very different marketplace, right? So a blue chip building like Sugar Wharf is developing an infrastructure to allow for these tech companies to come through. Infrastructure in the sense of fiber optics infrastructure in the sense of connectivity between path system. Everybody know the path system downtown? Sugar Wharf is connected to the path system, to Union Station, right? So with that being said, during weather like this is the best time for you to go and sell Sugar Wharf. Yeah, it makes sense. You say you don't want to be in the snow? You don't have to. You can be in shorts and go through the path system when the building's all done, said and done. Path is connected, is completed. You can actually go to Union Station. You can go to Pearson Airport, go in your shorts, go on vacation, come back. You're still covered. It's not every building cannot do that. I'm sorry to tell you. Not every building can do it because the city won't allow for it, and the connectivity is not there for it. The infrastructure is not there for it. So we're blessed to have that project to be working on, and we're thrilled about it. So again, back to the tech jobs. There's a lot happening. Google Labs coming to where Sugar Wharf is. A lot of changes in that infrastructure in that area. So a lot of tech coming in that area. So you have employment growth there, and you have stable market, and you have infrastructure being set up. So that is all about employment essentially. Looking at one other item when talking about demand is the shadow demand. We talk about international students, foreign workers, and the millennials. These 3 categories of shadow demand are extremely powerful because there's just such a strong number of these various stakeholders that also that they have a demand, that need to be part of this market. They need income, they need employment. And I just told you, Toronto's vacancy rate is very low. Employment income is high relatively to other parts of the GTA or Ontario. That's why everybody wants to be in the city for that reason. High income, good infrastructure, and also, I don't know if you guys know, but Toronto's ranked one of the best places to live in terms of lifestyle. Okay? Now, just want to summarize what we just went through. Demand for housing will continue to grow, resulting from strong immigration employment growth. So employment growth is very strong for us. I showed that to you guys. And that there's strong immigration. Housing supply is a long-term issue. There's an issue of getting supply. I talked about the permits. I talked about cost. Right? It's becoming an issue. That's the issue that everybody on our side of the business talks about, is supply. Not price, not anything, but supply. But what's really easy and what's really important for you to understand, and I told you I'll loop everything back and bring it back as a conclusion for you, is I said there's a housing problem. Housing supply action plan. Take a picture of that if you want pictures. Just take a picture of this part. Housing supply action plan. And then go Google it. So the government has a task force, right? They're trying to find out, this is really funny. They're trying to find out what is the problem. But they know the problem is supply, right? Economics, supply and demand. Just give more supply, it'll bring everything to rebalance, right? They know the problem is supply, but they have a department now that is working with various associations from our industry and other industries to find out how to deal with the supply issue. I just gave you what the issues were, did I not? 19 months to turn around to get application approved, the cost of development charges, the complexity of 200 conditions of applications. Those are three main things. So if you ever go to our association that we're part of, it's called BILD, B-I-L-D, our association that's lobbying and dealing with the city regarding the housing supply action plan, you will see that they're telling them that just, we need supply. Turn around faster, employ more people, or have a better system, right? Remember, Toronto's still a baby, still young, lots to grow. So the government's learning how to deal better and service developers and us better in creating a system to do application approval faster. Right? Everybody with me? Okay, so that is an important aspect of the presentation that I wanted you guys to get an understanding for. That was my Economics 101 on 2018, what happened, and 2019, what to expect. For yourself and your buyers, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of things that change within our business, and real estate is a business that is very ever-changing, right? It always fluctuates in many ways. But always, we always say real estate prevails. In university, they teach you every 10 years you double your money in real estate in Toronto. Because there's such a long-term growth plan for us. Remember, we have a horseshoe plan, right? So whether you like it or not, everybody has to buy into the horseshoe or develop into the horseshoe because we can't cut down trees, right? There is conservation. So naturally, this society will grow and be very nice and very beautiful. So if you're in a business and you're looking at the mid to long term, which is the business of real estate, any intelligent person will tell you, that's why pre-construction has become such a powerful vehicle of stability, because if you buy today, you have 4 years, 5 years before you take possession of property. That gives you a midterm outlook on that investment naturally. Okay? So, midterm to long-term real estate. For us, for 2019, we have some really good projects coming out. Myself and Johnson, when we consult with developers, we work with developers, we're very specific. We have requirements that we go through to work with developers to protect our business and protect your clients that come to our projects. So we like, again, very specific criteria from developers to work with in terms of what is their vision, what do they want to give you, what's their quality, things like that very important to us. What I'm seeing in the marketplace, if you pay attention to Toronto's condos, is in the past, if you have one building, let's say at, give me any intersection, guys, for just example. If you have, what's that?
Young and Bloor.
Young and Bloor. If you have one building that's selling at $2,000 a square foot, you with me? The next building trades in the same area. You understand what I mean? $100, $20 up and down. But what's changing now, which takes me to 8 Cedarland, is the unique proposition of true real estate development is what happens in Manhattan, what happens in Shanghai, in Beijing, in Hong Kong, in various metropolitans, in Singapore, anywhere, Dubai. Now if you have a building one area, could trade 30 to 40% more than the building next to it. Because still in Toronto, you can still buy land or develop in areas that are unique. Do you want to talk about 8 Cedarland or want me? Or you have a time for that set out? 8 Cedarland specifically sits between 2 one-acre parks. Okay? I'll go forward and I come back. Okay? It's not every day. 1 acre. Approximately 2 acres of park overall. It's not every day you can have a condo that has park on both sides. Everybody agree? You got to go Stouffville. In Markham, how often can you get that? And it won't happen. And Markham will continue to have buildings come, I promise you. Because that's an area for growth that a lot of developers are looking at. You may not realize it. You may not agree. That's because you don't know the supply-demand issues with the city there. But they know that population is increasing in Markham. Business is very stable in Markham. Infrastructures continue to change and grow in Markham. But what's really important about 8 Cedarlands is where the location of that building is, because it sits in the Unionville School District, right? High school. Anything east of Warden does not qualify to go to that high school. Make sure you understand that. We talk about why people come to Toronto, why people come to GTA, Ontario, is academics and stability. That project itself gives you that. So for us, when we look at it, the quality of the finishes, if you haven't seen, go look at the sales center, see what the offer is. Go and pay attention. Don't just look at, a piece of paper and say, no. Go and understand. Let the sales team explain to you why we do what we do. It's a very different and unique development in that area, and we're very proud to be part of it, and we're excited about it. So 8 Cedarlands is something you guys should look at. Johnson heads that project, so if you have questions, please direct it to him. I don't know much about it. No, I'm just kidding. So he's very well immersed into that development and shaping and forming the future of that neighborhood. So we're very proud of that. I think go back this way. Yeah. So 4800 Yonge and Shepherd. We have site coming. We have the next phase of Sugar Wharf coming. We also have an amazing site in Vaughan coming. And we have a couple of other projects coming which we don't want to talk about because we don't want to excite you too fast. We want to keep a little bit secret to ourselves, so when we're ready, we can tell you. For us, our business has always been B2B, working with you guys. Anybody that work with us, they know how hard we work, how much information we try to provide, and any building we've been part of has been extremely successful. You look at the buildings we've done, how much money people have made from our buildings, is because we know how to make money for our agents and for their buyers. Okay? We look at the end thing. First step is development, agent, buyer. Buyers do well, you will continue to do well. I've seen today, I did a PDI today for one of my units this morning. I went into the unit, I was so happy that everything was finished so perfectly. I was more happy because I made a lot of money from the unit, mind you. That was my first thing. But it was a building that we sold in 2014 together, and I bought a unit there, and I'm so thrilled about it. But overall, what I tried to explain to you guys, us, just like anybody else, have a stake in the building. We buy into these buildings ourselves. So we have an interest to make sure these buildings grow and do well. So the product, the offering at 8 Cedarland will be the most luxurious building in Markham, whether you like it or not. People will love to live there. Remember, when you do resale and you can't show well, you do a showing, doesn't show well, it's going to sit. It's going to sit. You need very good quality of finish. So going on from 8 Cedarland to Yonge and Shepherd, one of our clients is Menkes, one of the largest developers in Canada. We're excited. We highlighted some of the buildings that they've done, not all, just some. But at the intersection of Yonge and Shepherd is the last plot of land that'll give you a building with access to the subway station, the path system, right? Is the last one for that intersection, just for you to know. It's an amazing project. It is blue chip. You buy, you keep, you hold, you don't sell. That's 4800. Sugar Wharf is like that, right? There's various projects that are blue chip developments that you buy and you hold. This intersection is phenomenal. I'm a big fan of North York, right?
That's the place right now is a McDonald's?
No, there's a parking lot there. Southwest corner. There's a parking lot there, and we're thrilled about it. It's such a nice plot of land. And it architecturally, guys, I'm a bit happy, because we get to work on something unique. You see other cities in the world, they have a nice angle. We have that in this project, so it'll be the most unique building in North York and designed by one of the best developers in the city. So it'll be a very luxurious building in that sense. Okay? We'll have more details. Make sure you speak to Tony or myself or Johnson. Make sure you give us your business cards at the end so we can reach out, send you the slides. Sugar Wharf, our next phase. Again, one thing I didn't tell you guys about Sugar Wharf is there's a direct path system path access from the LCBO head office connecting to Sugar Wharf. How many square foot was that? Do you remember?
For
Sugar Wharf for LCBO.
LCBO, they're taking 250,000.
Remember I said 2.3% was the vacancy rate of offices downtown. This entire office has already been spoken for, it's taken up. LCBO will be occupying. LCBO is a very stable client to have in a building. I don't know if you realize that. It's it's government money, yeah? It's not going anywhere. But they pay really well, very good benefits. So a lot of people, executives and managements will be working out of here. Accounts receivable, payable, finance, management, HR, marketing, all of them will be working out of here. They're connecting to the system. From here, massive park again, we go into the future phases. It is the largest waterfront land development in the city. And again, it's very close to Yonge Street as well, right? So we're really excited about that as well. Please make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're very active on social media. We have posts every week. We're a Toronto-centric company. So we put anything to do with Toronto news. If you don't, I'm sure you have Facebook, guys. Follow us. The reason is because we put articles on it, or sometimes we put our information like this on it. You can take it, use it for yourself. We have no problem sharing information with you because you're our partners. So utilize that to your advantage. Take the information, market it to your buyers. Good articles to read related to our business. If there's a change happening, any updates, we put it. Whether it's some of the buildings we've sold that they're occupying, right? We put that. So if you sell in one of the buildings, you want to know what's happening with it, we will update you on our Facebook. It's actually quite a unique service, I think, to you guys. There's no cost to you. I think you guys should realize that. Any information, any building we do, we put it there. So make sure you follow us. Any questions? Thank you. Any questions? 2019.